Today we're going to install the Pace Edwards UltraGroove metal on this 2019 Ram 1500 new body style. Let's go and get started. All right, so now this truck already has a bulkhead seal from another tonneau cover, but if you do not have one, you will need to go ahead and install your bulkhead seal right across the top of your bulkhead. It goes to the very back edge of the bulkhead, furthest away from the cab. You're gonna go from one bed cap all the way to the other and cut it nice and flush. You're also going to want to wipe that whole surface down with rubbing alcohol before you apply the adhesive. Now, if you have an open stake pocket at the back, what you're going to want to do is cover that up. That will be partially covered by the rail, and that can let in some water at the back. So what we're going to do, I've already cleaned off this whole area with some rubbing alcohol. I'm going to go ahead and peel back some of the protectant. Line it up. Lay it down in place. And we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Now, when you pull the canister out of the box, it's going to look just like this. You're going to have on each end a wooden end cap that's held in with a couple of bolts. We're going to go ahead and remove those two bolts using a 3/8. We'll discard the bolts and also the wooden ends. All right, now a lot of times it's really helpful to go ahead and take your box that the cover came in, put it into the bed of the truck, set your canister up on top of that. That's going to elevate the cover enough to where you can put your rails on. You also want to make sure that you take the strap out of the canister to be Velcroed in place for transit, and make sure it's down up underneath the cover to where you don't install everything and your strap stuck inside. So next, let's go ahead and move to our rails. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and locate my passenger side rail. Now you can locate that by the square end is going to be facing towards the front of the cab. The round end will be facing towards the tailgate, and the open channel will be facing to the inside of the bed. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lubricate that rail. So I'm going to go find at my canister cover inside my packaging. You're going to see a little foil pack like this. We're just going to tear that open. We've got a little towel that's got the 303 aerospace material on there. We're going to wipe it through. What we're lubricating here is the top part, the bottom side of the seal and the top side of the wear strip. Getting some 303 material on there that will help the cover open and close. It's easiest to do this at this point rather than when the cover is already installed into the rails. Next, what I want to do is I'm going to flip this upside down, and you're going to see a white protectant over top of our seal. I'm going to go ahead and pull that off and discard that. Now, before I actually install this, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit and show you our clamp brackets. This is showing the bottom side of the rail. I want to show you guys how this installs to the bottom side of the rail before I install it onto the to the canister. The clamp bracket is going to look just like this. You're going to have 4 of them. This one says FR. That stands for front right. This is the passenger side, which is the right side, and this is the front location. So if I look at this rail, I see where there's a little bit of a cutout in this groove. What I want to do is I want to hook it on to this edge of the extrusion and kind of snap it into place. Now, when I do that, I'm flexing this material right here that puts a little bit of bind on the cover. Once that's in place, I'm going to slide it forward until this edge is right to the very end of the cutout. Once that's in place, I've also got a set screw. I'm going to use a 4mm Allen wrench to tighten that set screw down and lock that into place. Now, you can install these before we put the rail on or after we put the rail on. Your instructions show to install it after you put the rail on, so the next one I do will be after the rail is already installed onto the canister. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull part of the length of the cover out, and then I'm going to turn the latch to pull the latches in from either side. That way the rail will slide over the canister cover. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and attach the rail to the canister. Now the blanket of the cover actually has to slide into the track as we go. So a couple of things you want to watch out for. Number one, you've got a groove on the outside of this rail that needs to ride inside the notch inside this rail on the canister. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually kind of hook those together as we slide that forward. We're going to rotate it down to where the blanket can slide in here. This outside groove needs to ride to the inside notch on the canister as well. Now, when you slide those together, you want to make sure that there are no burrs or any kind of like metal filings or anything like that in the way, because that will block it and make it to where it doesn't slide all the way in. When you push that in place, if it stops about a 1/2 inch from lining up on the bottom, you've actually got a small hole in the rail that's threaded that needs to line up to the hole in the canister so they can be attached together. If it's not quite lining up, you can also look at the bottom here. There's a little guide underneath there that may need to be pried up on just a little bit to make a little more room for that to slide in. Once that's pried up, you can go ahead and slide it in. That should be fine. Line them up like so, and then slide it in place. And we'll just slide it in place. Now, a threaded hole in your rail is going to line up to the hole in the rail guide on the canister. You're going to have in your kit a machine screw with a flat washer and a lock washer. You can go up in there and fasten those two together. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. All right, now we're going to go ahead and lift up our cover, slide the box out of the way. Set it in place and slide it all the way forward in the bed of the truck to where the canister hits the bulkhead. All right, now to install the clamp bracket with the rail already installed, just lift up on the rail, slide the clamp bracket into place, make sure it grabs a hold of the notch on the other side of the rail, and you want to slide it back until the opening on the rail is right up to the edge of the clamp bracket. Then take 4mm and tighten down that Allen wrench to set that in place. Now, make sure before you slide that back that Allen screw is backed out to where it's not going to drag on that rail. Otherwise, you won't be able to install it. All right, now we're going to go ahead and gently close the tailgate. Be mindful of where the rails are. You don't want to hit the rails with the tailgate. Now we're going to take our spacer tool and fit it in place. We're going to go ahead and shift the rail backwards to where we're going closer to the tailgate and kind of pulling the canister away from the bulkhead as we do that. We just want to make sure we have the correct spacing from the rail to the tailgate. Next, I'm going to go ahead and slide our clamp onto our clamp bracket. It just slides together like so. Now, if you have a little piece of plastic obstruction in the back, that's basically part of the bed cap that holds the bed cap down to the top of the bed. Once we clamp this down, this is going to clamp everything down in place, and that's kind of obstructing what's going on back with the clamp. Snap that off so you can slide your clamp in place. Once you slide that clamp half over, that'll slide in place just like so. Then we're going to have a bolt with a big handle on it. We're going to slide a lock washer and flat washer over that bolt, and we're going to push it through both sides of those clamps. Next, we've got, this is called a barrel nut. It's going to rest inside the curve on the back side of the clamp, and it's threaded, so we can go ahead and thread that bolt into that barrel nut. And then we'll just get it nice and hand tight. We don't need to over tighten it, just get it nice and snug. That will hold the rail down and towards the bed cap. Now let's go ahead and go to the rear clamp. All right, now the rear clamp installs exactly like the front clamp, other than it also has a kickstand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the wing nut, lock washer and flat washer off of the kickstand. I'm going to bring the kickstand all the way to the bracket. I'm going to slide the bolt in and rotate it up. Now, I don't have quite enough room to push straight onto the side of the bed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this out. I'm going to show you a trick on how to adjust this kickstand. What we're going to do is take off the rubber stopper. We're going to unscrew it all the way. We're going to rotate it to go through the other side. Now we're going to put our thread protector back on there, slide it back into place, and now I can push up against my inside of the bed. So I'm going to rotate that over. I'm also going to go ahead and take my flat washer, lock washer, and wing nut and put them onto the threads on the other side. I'm not going to tighten them down just yet. I'm just going to get just snug in place to where I can rotate this around and get the rail to where it's nice and level and set in place with a kickstand. Once that's set in place, then I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the wing nut. And that sets our kickstand. We're going to repeat the entire process of this rail on the opposite side. All right, next what we're going to do is install our canister cover. If you notice, you got a hole in the top of the canister cover, and then there's also a sliding threaded piece inside the canister. We're going to want to line those up, and then we've got some included screws that are going to go through, and I just want to get it started on both sides before I tighten either one down. Once you get them started, what you want to do is make sure the canister cover is pushed all the way to the front edge of the canister and then tighten them down. Now I'm going to go ahead and install my drain tubes. Here is the rear drain cup. I'm going to start at the rear. You'll notice a little spot in the rear that's got a hole in it. We're just going to slide that drain cup right over top of that hole. Now directly below, there's going to be a spot next to your tie-down hoop. I've got a bedrug impact mat in here, so behind the bed, right in this area right here, there's actually a hole in the ram from the factory. So I'm just going to take a utility blade, since I could feel it, and I'm going to make a little access into that hole. And once that's in there, I can go ahead and fish my drain tube down in there. I'm going to run the drain tube up to the drain cup and then pull it down nice and tight. This way, any kind of rainwater that gets stuck into that track will run down the drain tube and out the bed of the truck. We're going to do that on the same thing on the opposite side and also move to the front. All right, now we got a drain tube that's going to attach to the bottom side of our canister here. The best place that I've found to run that drain tube, there's right behind where this tie-down hoop is, there's another hole. I've already made an access hole in our bedrug material. So I'm going to go ahead and run my drain tube through that. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring this up top. Rotate this around and snap it into place. You'll hear it click twice and then it's installed. Now repeat that on the opposite side. Now we've also got a Velcro strip to be able to stow our strap out of the way. That's going to go in this location right here. Now I've already wiped this area down with rubbing alcohol, so I'm going to go ahead and peel away the adhesive protector and then put it in place, just like so. Well, that concludes the installation. If you have any questions, call the experts or visit us online.